just check in with Gracie Ruth, who's always my technical supporter.
Awesome.
Right.
Mhm.
All right. So, okay. Well, it's noon. So,
Mhm.
oh, Gracie just read the message. So, you are live. All right. So, good afternoon and good evening. And if you're in the Pacific Rim, this is very early for you on Tuesday morning. Hi, I'm Bruce, the guy in the blue shirt, and I wanted to thank Rever. This live is powered by Rever, and if you want to learn more about the smartphone Rever tools, you can just go to reverscore.com, and it is running in the ticker. And I have the utmost pleasure of introducing Yermi, and Yermi is in the mountains in North Carolina, right?
Yep.
All right, so
Nice,
well.
good old mountain.
Good for you, man. So, Yermi, why don't you just give everybody a little introduction of yourself? Obviously, I've met you a few times, and we'll go from there.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Bruce, for taking the time and inviting me over to this discussion.
Mm-hmm.
My name is Jeremy Kirkus. I'm an executive mindfulness coach, which is a little niche, if you will. There's executive coaches, and I'm sure everybody's hearing so much about it.
Mm-hmm.
What I do a little bit differently is that I just add a little bit more meaning and a little bit more fulfillment, if you will, what we like to call mindfulness into our executive coaching. So that's who I am.
Right. So, how long have you been doing that? Because I know you had a career in the correctional services, correct?
Yes. So I was for 8 years I was a coach in the prison system
Mm-hmm.
while I was studying organizational psychology, and organizational psychology is the psychology behind businesses. So I was always planning on being an executive coach. More particularly, I wanted the job as a chief people officer because
Mm-hmm.
I believe in people and I believe in growing businesses. And yeah, so the job was just to get me through college and university, and I was looking for a coaching job. I didn't know what that meant,
Mm-hmm.
but the prison system was an interesting experience,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, so I was doing that for 8 years and coaching for about 10 now. So
Right.
altogether, including the 8 years in the prison.
Cool. So we do have some people joining us, and I'm going to be back and forth. So welcome, Gracie. Welcome, Karina. Those are Randall. Welcome. I think most of those people you know virtually as well, right?
Yeah, I know them. Yeah, I
Yeah.
know Gracie very well.
Yeah, for
Mhm.
sure. So I noticed you have this hashtag called OneUP, and I know you've been posting about that recently. So why don't you give us an overview of the kind of summary of what OneUp is, and then we'll go with
Sure.
some more questions.
For sure. So the elevator speech, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
OneUp is basically a program that helps provide tools for individuals who are in any form of position, usually high stress environments, but it could be really anything. And it just gives them the tools, a format, if you will, to take the next step in a mindful and a meaningful way.
Mm-hmm.
Think of it as, you hear this all the time, like leveling up or 10x or 5x or whatever it is. One up is just more of a practical level.
Mm-hmm.
Also, mindfulness is being thrown around a lot. So, you want to make things more practical. So I feel one up is just more a practical, very easy to use program.
Right. Okay.
Mhm.
Well, that's awesome. So yeah, if you have questions for Yermi or myself, we will go back and add commentary later. We can't do that on the fly, but let me just show a question here from Karina. It's kind of interesting. Thank you, Karina, for that. And so I'm a pretty practical, simple word guy, Yermi. So my understanding of OneUp is, yes, it came from a lot of practical experience that you learned in the both at university and in the real world doing a job in a correctional facility. So I also understand that it's broken down into 90 mini steps, right?
Right.
So, so do you want to kind of talk about those 90 steps? Might seem overwhelming for some people, but do you want
Sure.
to talk about how you go about that?
Sure. So, so again, like when I joined the prison system,
Mm-hmm.
the way I really was introduced to it was I went through a trauma about 10 years ago now, 2010, and my way of getting over the trauma was to just volunteer my time, you know, community service, give back, you know,
Mm-hmm.
it's part of a recovery system,
Mm-hmm.
which, you know, my therapist at the time was suggesting I do. And when I went into the prison system, really just to kind of get perspective or whatever it was, little did I know it turned into a full-time job. It turned into what it turned into. And I was journaling a lot through conversations and through people I was meeting, through experiences that I was experiencing through, you know, all that. And and then it sort of occurred to me that, and then that's also through learning the psychology. I've learned a lot about AA. I've learned a lot about those kind of recovery things. And AA has 12 steps that they
Mm-hmm.
do, but they do the 12 steps in something called 90 and 90. And I
Mm-hmm.
was researching a lot about what is this 90 and 90. And there are many therapists who say that 90 days a person can transform completely. Happened to be that my rabbi, my mentor at the time, suggested the exact same thing. And he says it's a Kabbalistic thing. So
Mm-hmm.
I started researching that. One thing led to another, and I got introduced to Tao Tai Ching, and I got introduced to a lot of different spiritual teachings, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And my question was always, how do I make this practical? You know, and all these are really nice. And I'm a very practical, down to earth kind of guy. I'm not those voodoo, you know, monkey kind of guys, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and as I experience and as I research and as I developed more understanding, I started connecting these spiritual lessons with the psychology that I was studying at the time. And I was testing it in the prison system. That's where my job was at the time, and the transformation was insane. It was crazy. I saw huge levels of success. People who
Wow.
were coming in completely disgusting people. I mean, you could only imagine who was in prison. Were leaving. Some of them were being released as completely transformed people. Um, you know, one in particular is today an executive in a business in a company.
Mm-hmm.
I get calls from a second inmate who his boss calls me up all the time and tells me, "This is my favorite guy who's working here." And he only talks about you. What did you do? You know,
Mm-hmm.
um, and it's really the steps of the 90 steps. And yes, 90, the number 90 sounds a lot, and it sounds, you know, overwhelming in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
But what I did is that I broke them down into really, really small, short, bite-sized um, steps. So
Mm-hmm.
at first, I wrote the book. 90 Days, OneUP is the name of the book. 90 Day to Successful Living, and each step is really only 1 page long. So it's
Mm-hmm.
a little synopsis of what each step means, and then a little meditation on how to apply the step in your life.
Right.
Then people were starting to ask questions, and then that's how the course OneUp developed, which is a 90-day course, and that's how that sort of became what I was doing in prison, and then doing it in my personal life, which has completely transformed 360. Um, and now I'm applying it to businesses.
Right.
So,
Well, that is amazing. So I just wanted to welcome some more people. Hi, Asia. We
oh,
both know Asia. Great to have you along. And yeah, like you, Jeremy, I've had a lot of hands-on experience, and when you figure out, well, how do I condense that down into something, and mine became the simpler, faster, better. How do you
Right.
take
Yeah.
40 years of all that knowledge and some failures, a lot of success, and how do you
Yeah.
condense it down? Well, mine was the simpler, faster, better. So
Mhm.
I know at the after the live show, I know you're going to add a link for the. It's an ebook, right?
No, so the book is actually we're working on publishing it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we just got the first edit back now. We have to send it back for a few more edits, but then it's going to be published very soon. So yeah, we're still
Awesome.
publishing it.
All right. Yeah, and I know that at the end you're going to add some other resources,
Yeah,
including I think a little free checklist, right? It's going to
yeah,
be
yeah.
something that you're going to add. So.
Mhm,
So, if you mentioned about a couple of your real success
mhm,
stories, obviously 90 steps, that's a lot of steps,
mhm,
even in
mhm,
mini bites, little baby
mhm,
steps, that's a lot of steps to take on board.
mhm.
From the 90, Yermi, what would you say were maybe the top two steps that you could talk a little bit more in depth about?
So for sure. So in my life, I could only talk about myself, and this is what I did often in the prison system as well. I believe in inspiring people by being an example.
Mm-hmm.
So my life was overwhelming, and it goes without saying. Right now we're all overwhelmed with what's going on, um, and so there are simple steps to really not get overwhelmed. I would say I'm a lot less overwhelmed than what I was, 10 years ago, going through traumas and whatever it was,
Mm-hmm.
thanks to the 90 steps. But I would say, overwhelm is one. The 90 steps take over your entire life. So everything in your life, let's say leadership, let's say, all kinds of different parts. But let's focus on overwhelm, since most of us are overwhelmed right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Overwhelm really has four short steps to really get over it. Out of the 90, there's four of them.
Mm-hmm.
So one of them is really just changing our mindsets and our perception. So let me give you an example of what that would mean. Imagine we have this boulder that's on top of us, a big rock that's just sitting on us.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Many people will feel the pressure and then get overwhelmed that they're being held down by this rock that's on top of us. The overwhelm is just an emotion.
Mm-hmm.
If we are able to change our mindset and our perception, we could take control over that emotion and not let that emotion take over us. And just say, okay, this is just a pressure of a heavy item that's on me. Let me maneuver in certain ways, and I could get over the feeling of this overwhelm, in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
Another step would be true empathy. Empathy to myself, empathy to others who are involved in the overwhelm. Kids are at home, and we have to now do all these Zoom meetings and these Zoom calls, and it's so overwhelming, right? Um, so we have to have that empathy to ourselves, and find systems of how to navigate all what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, a third step out of the four steps is looking beyond what you see. It's a Lion King, quote from Rafiki over there.
Mm-hmm.
Look beyond what is. So yeah, we're going through a pandemic. There's civil unrest, there's political unrest, there's all kinds of crazy stuff happening right now. But look beyond that. Try to find what is within your realm, what within your quote unquote control. The last thing I would say is take action. So we're overwhelmed because there's just so much getting thrown at us. And then a lot of times we have this kind of like shame, fear, a fear, a guilt, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote an entire book during this pandemic. And people ask me, how did you do that? Like, whoa, my second book I wrote during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
How did you do that? It's just that I just avoided all the negativity, and I got myself busy and I took action. And anybody could do it.
Right.
Those are the four steps that I would say, to get over overwhelm and anything over in life.
Right. I love those analogies, and we can all, whether we're listening to this live or saying it's a recording, I'm sure we can all relate to exactly what you said. So for the the live viewers, if you want to put an example of how you overcame your overwhelmed state of mind or feeling, you could drop that in the comments. If you're a little bit shy and you'd rather send Jeremy a direct message, then go ahead and do that. He would love to hear from you. And yeah, if from my own experience, I found, in fact, as we were setting up, I was talking about some of my overwhelmingness, which is, as a baby boomer using all these new technology tools, and I get, easily confused still because I'm not super comfortable with them. But you made a really good point that, when you've got emotion hanging on you or pressurizing you, then if you put that into motion, so I found that driving the emotions into motion, which is maybe another way of saying, take action, and it doesn't matter how much action you take. You can take, like you said, baby steps, right? A little piece every day just to make a little difference, take that pressure off you and that overwhelmed sensation that people are feeling.
Right. If I may, Bruce, that is exactly what OneUp is about. The way we figured out the name OneUp, I was struggling with what am I calling this? OneUp started with Recovery Path. The name was Recovery Path when I first started, because I was working in the recovery rooms, AA and the prisons, and so the way we figured out OneUp was we were actually out here in North Carolina on vacation last year for Thanksgiving, and it was this is around the time of my sister-in-law's birthday, and we were celebrating her birthday, and she just turned 20, and that's a significant number, and we did a whole surprise party. It was really nice, and we looked at her and we're like, so 20, big number, overwhelming, no? And she looked at me and she's like, no, it's a level up, and I graduated one more up, like I just went one more, and I was like, wow, I like that, and that's sort of how OneUp was kind of born. The name OneUp was born. I'll be honest with you. I read Grant Cardone's, 10X book. I read all those self-help books, and it's overwhelming, to say, one of them is like post 7 times on LinkedIn or one of those, and that's how you become famous. Does that mean I have to post 70 times a day? Like, that's crazy, right?
Right.
That's a lot, But if you think to yourself and you say, if you have to post 7 times and I only have to post 8 times, one more than everybody else, that's a little less overwhelming, So that's exactly what you were saying, is that the action, sometimes all you need is taking that one more step,
Right.
And that's what OneUp is really about, like just taking one small step further.
You bet. So it's interesting how names come about. So my whole your OneUp came from a family thing. Mine actually came, Simpler, Faster, Better, came from somebody who was saying to me, well, Bruce, I don't understand all these acronyms. If you were explaining this to somebody who is 8 or 10 years old, what would you want them to understand? And then I realized that everything that I do in terms of helping people clean up a process is that you can put it in 3 buckets. You either need to make it simpler, or you need to make it faster, or you need to make it better. And ideally, you do all 3, right? Because that's how you get that next level or that OneUp. Because if you can do all 3, then it's better than just doing one thing to the process. So it's interesting, and the next month's birthday is going to be interesting because she's going to go from 20 to the famous 21, right?
21, yeah.
So that's going to be a big, literally OneUp, like adding 1 to the numeral 20 to make her 21. So
yeah, exactly.
All right, I'm just going to look over at the comments here. Thank you, everybody, for engaging. We really appreciate it. There's wonderful connections that both Jeremy and I know here. And if you're seeing this as a recording, don't feel shy to add any questions or commentary. And Jeremy's committed to go back and answer your questions and make any additional clarification of something that you may have put in the comments here. Again, we can't do that live, but thank you. Thank you so much for all the participation. So Yeah, so four big steps out of the 90s. So what would be the best way for somebody to learn more about OneUp, Jeremy? How do you prefer people to do that?
So OneUp is it's pretty much on all the social media. You could follow me on LinkedIn, where that's my main platform, because my target clientele is business professionals and is people who want to grow professionally. But I do have variations of the service. So we're on Facebook, on LinkedIn, Instagram, on my website. So it's just myname.com. Um, and yeah, so I'm very easily accessible, and I do respond relatively pretty quickly. So
Yeah,
for
you
sure.
do. I can actually be a testimonial for that. You respond in a timely manner and very thoroughly and very professionally. So
Hmm. For
well,
sure.
good. So
Mhm.
that's
Mhm.
YermiKirkus.com. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, nearmekirkus.com. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So if you could either somebody listening to this or you could add it to the comments. So I just wanted, hi Eric, thank you for joining us. Good of you to jump on and support Jeremy and I in this conversation. So if you had, you said the book is coming out in the next several months here. Is
Yeah.
OneUp available now, or is it something that you're looking to get ready for early 2021? What's the status?
Okay. So the course, we decided to kind of like put a third gear on it, or a fifth gear, whatever you say it.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly because we are getting a lot of people are coming and saying, they're overwhelmed, and how can we help, and all that kind of stuff. I'm on a lot of these networking meetings, and I hear the word overwhelmed being thrown around so much.
Mm-hmm.
And because of the pandemic, and because of what's going on, and mainly because we really try to help out people, we developed another hashtag called Redeem 2020,
Mm-hmm.
and where we're gonna start the OneUp course on January 1st, 2021. So
Mm-hmm.
sort of starting the new year with a new foot. But for the next few weeks until January 21st, um, you could reach out to us, and we're going to give you a significant discount.
Mm-hmm.
Redeem it for 2020, and you're going to get the whole everything that OneUp has to offer.
Mm-hmm.
And because we're just still in the middle of getting the book out, the idea was to get the book and then the course, but you're still eligible to get the book as soon as it gets printed and stuff. And it's all part of the Redeem 2020. You're going to get daily emails, so it's not going to be as overwhelming. You don't have to log on to anything.
Mm-hmm.
Do it at your own time. Do it in your own speed. I'm always available. You can email me any form of questions. There's going to be a one-on-one coaching as well in that. Um, so action items, meditations, visualizations. It's a pretty elaborate course,
Mm-hmm.
um, and because of 2020, we're gonna give it for a significant discount.
Sure.
So anybody who wants to reach out, by all means.
What was that other? That other hashtag was hashtag Redeem 20.
Redeem 2020. Yeah.
And that's the numbers 2020.
20. Yes. Yeah.
All right, awesome. Yeah. So
Mhm.
if that's for you, and particularly the baby step approach, I think most people would really appreciate that. And so, will the book be part of the foundational materials for
Mhm.
OneUp?
So yeah, so the book is usually a standalone for what it is,
Mm-hmm.
but because it's such short chapters,
Mm-hmm.
people typically have questions.
Right.
The way I was putting the book together was it was really just little chapters that I was writing out for the inmates who I was working with at the time,
Mm-hmm.
little handouts that I was giving out to them. Here are just some thoughts you might want to think about, and it was really for an open discussion. And then so one of the inmates just said, "Hey, you could make a book out of this," and that's how the book was born. Um, and then the course is just a little bit more of an expansion of that book.
Okay.
But again, it's also still short. It still remains. My goal is that I do this in my life, right? I take 5 to 20 minutes a day, depending
Mm-hmm.
on how much time I have in a day, to apply these 90 steps every single day, all the time. So even though I go through the 90 steps, 90 steps is 30 days, is 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
So I go through the whole 3 months, I just restart them over again. You know, there's always more to learn about myself as I grow. And I just one up myself every day. And all it takes me is 5 to 20 minutes. That's all it is.
Right. Well, that's really good. One up yourself. I love that. That's probably a great way to finish up here. And yeah, I'm with you. If you can't be the product of your own product, then there's kind of a problem, right?
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
Lovely. All right. So I just want to welcome Randall. Thanks again for your additional comments. And hi, Maria. That's good to see you. So thank you for dropping on. And so I'm going to finish up here. And if you see this as a recording and you would like to know more, then please put your comments in the feed, and Yermi will go back and look at those. And if you don't want to put your comments in the feed, you can direct message Yermi for sure. And so thank you, Yermi. Much appreciated. All right, have a marvelous Monday, everybody. And Yermi, if you could just hang for a minute, and I'll talk to you about getting the material. Thank you again, everybody, and be safe, and don't get overwhelmed. Right?
That's right. Yes. Thank you, everybody. See you soon.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.